Hey, welcome to Brambleberry. We did a recipe a while back, recipe video for our spicy beef, and today I am making the cauliflower rice that we usually make to go along with it since it's a low carb option for us. So I'm gonna bring you along and show you how I make that. So usually I make these about 3 bags at a time. We buy the pre-riced cauliflower just because it's easier. This one is what they had. It's got garlics and herbs, so we'll see how that goes. Usually we just use the plain and season ourselves. I start out by heating up my pan. I use stainless steel. I gotta make sure it's hot enough first. I put a little bit of grapeseed oil to start, and then I dump this in, and then I let that cook. This has been nuked a little bit, so it's like thawed out for the most part, but I'm gonna finish cooking it in here. You can cook it all the way in there, and it speeds this process up a little bit. All right, we're testing to see if the pan's hot enough. You see that water bubble in there dancing around? That's when you know that your stainless steel pan is hot enough. So it's time to add some oil. Now that we've got the pan coated in oil, we add the rice cauliflower. And that's still like partially frozen, so it's going to cool down the pan pretty quick. By the way, this is on medium to medium high heat, and we're using gas, so I don't know how that'll translate to a electric burner. Sometimes they're a little different, but just going to stir this up. Get it worked around there, and that oil that I put in was just to start. I usually start with the grapeseed oil because it has a higher smoke point, especially when you're putting in that hot pan. But we like to use olive oil for the rest of the time because it tastes better, and I don't know, I think it's probably better for you. So we're going to add a pretty healthy amount there, and then we're going to stir it up again, and that's going to kind of coat everything. That way we won't be sticking to the pan. You notice it quit sizzling pretty good. That's because it cooled that pan down quite a bit. Since this was put in kind of halfway frozen, I'm going to put a lid on this for a while and just let it sit and stir it every once in a while, and that'll help get it thawed out and cook the cauliflower a little bit more. But eventually we need to take that off, because one of the secrets, in my opinion, of making rice cauliflower is to make sure that you get all the water cooked out of it, because it's cauliflower has so much water in it, and it's just not good. At least like this, because you're trying to make it seem like rice, and rice is not that wet. It's kind of dry, you know. If you cook this really well, get the water out, it's going to taste a lot better. But there's a caveat to that. Don't cook it so much that you burn it, because burnt cauliflower is no Gouda. So this has been going for probably a couple minutes. I just stirred it, first time since I had it covered. And at this point, it's still kind of cooking, but I'm going to add in, we like using these freeze-dried chives. You can put onions in it too if you want, but I like adding these because they keep well. And they just add a little bit of something to it, a little bit of flavor. And I'm putting them in now because since they're freeze-dried, they're, like dehydrated, and they need some moisture. So while there's a little bit in there, they're gonna soak that up. So we're just gonna stir those in. And interestingly, I can smell some garlic. So maybe that garlic and herb stuff wasn't too bad of an idea. I'm gonna add my own garlic powder, but I might need to taste it first to see if it even needs it. Alright, we're gonna put the lid back on and let that cook for a little bit longer. Alright, it's been steaming for a little while there. Looks like the steam's coming out pretty good. So we're gonna take that lid back off, set it down here to the side, and we're gonna give this a good stir. Oh yeah, it looks like it's drying out some. And I think I'm gonna add some more olive oil. There's one thing, well, getting the cauliflower rice, the moisture out of it's important, but also using a lot of fat. If you can eat butter, use butter. Butter's awesome. We can't have dairy right now, so I'm using olive oil, and olive oil's good. So we're using that. And get everything coated really well with the fat, because that's going to give it more flavor. Because cauliflower on its own is just, well, maybe you like it. I think it's kind of bland. Alright, so now we're going to cook with the lid off, because the cauliflower is, you know, pretty good there. And we're going to let the moisture evaporate off of it. Now, as far as seasonings go, you want to salt this really well. I don't measure it, I just kind of taste it. Usually, though, it gets several heavy pinches of salt. That's another thing you need to do to get it to taste halfway decent. You kind of hear that crackling and popping. That's a sign that it's getting close to having enough moisture out of it. At least I think it is. So we got some salt in there. And we're gonna add some of our Telecherry black pepper, which, if you didn't see in another video, you should try this stuff. It's way better than regular black pepper, if you are a black pepper fan. Good healthy amount of that. And I'm going to add some of our umami seasoning. I don't really measure this stuff. Just do it to taste. You do what you like. You got other seasonings you like, do that. Now I'm going to clear out a little spot in the middle here. We're going to add a little bit more olive oil to the center here, about like so. Get that coated. And then we're going to put in a little bit of this hot chili pepper paste, which is yummy stuff. Don't put too much though, because it's kind of spicy, unless you like spicy. That is all I'm putting. Just a little bit there, right in that oil. And I'm going to stir this around a little bit. Cook it just a little bit on there. And then mix in a little bit of this. And that stuff kind of cooks on the pan a little bit, and then you pull in a little bit of cauliflower, deglaze it, let it sit there and cook a little bit, pull in a little bit more, do the same thing, and you just kind of slowly work it in so that we get that little bit that we put in there kind of spread out amongst all the cauliflower, and it gives it a nice little kick. Alright, so I gave it a taste and it still needs a little salt, so we're going to put some more in there. As I said earlier, heavy salting is good for this. And I also am adding some garlic powder. Stir that around. It's crackling more, which means it's getting that moisture cooked off. Give it a taste here. That's doing better. Whew! I got a little bit of that red pepper there in the back of my throat. Hopefully a little more umami. And there, it's pretty much done. You could cook it a little bit longer if you wanted, but I think it's pretty good now. Just to recap, I think you can flavor this stuff however you want it, but I think the keys to making it actually taste something like rice is to salt it really well, add some kind of seasoning to it besides the salts to give it some more flavor, and make sure that you cook it long enough to get most of the moisture out of the cauliflower. If you do all those things, you can season it however you want. I think it'll be really good. So hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave a comment. If you try some other way, maybe find some really cool way to season it and you want to share it, put those in the comments too. I would love to hear them because we're always looking for different ways to cook our stuff and make it better. So thanks for watching.